you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know how possible that really is. So for my dreams to be coming true and me to be living out my dream right now, I pray that I can give these fans back what they gave me. My name's Abera Eze. Started off at Arsenal. I think I was 8. Got released from there at 13. Went to Fulham. Got released from there. Went to Reading. Got released from there. Yeah, it's bare rejections. A lot of rejections during that period. Then went to Millwall, having to try and prove yourself again, which is, as a young kid, is difficult. Again, that didn't work out. Got released from there. Arsenal was probably the hardest. Yeah. My dream is to play for them. So hearing them say no at 13, that was tough. And I remember like training after I got released, and I couldn't like focus. I was just crying whilst training, like doing I was bawling. But I think that helped me so much in all the other rejections, because like if I can get through Arsenal releasing me, I can get through any other club releasing me. My mindset was,
we knew from when he walked in that he was special. And I'm telling you, he came in and he was doing what he's doing in the Prem in League 2. But he was just gliding past man and smiling. Like, he was just, everybody in our Wigan team, when we had him on loan, we was like, brother, if QPR can let this brother go out on loan, QPR's team is crazy. It's mad. Because he was just on different levels. And I remember January they called him back, just because of how well he did. And again, I'd say this, I knew how good he was, because in League 2, I remember that there always used to be a defender behind me and a defender in front, or the midfielder, just to, that's how they was to do, because our game was very direct. Hit the big man and play off. I knew he was a problem because they started doubling up on him. That's when I was like, oh, right.
As a kid, that's all I knew. Arsenal was everything. So to play there, to not even understand what it meant to play first team football, but just to be, I'd go in, I've got Arsenal badge. I'm the kid that plays for Arsenal. During that period, it was amazing, but afterwards it became difficult because as a kid, your identity is almost wrapped up in that.
When he was released by Arsenal, he ended up being very emotional. I think that showed the human side of him, which is that, look, I really want to
Good player, Eze.
Beyond good player. I played with Barry at QPR, yeah, and he arrived, and he'd been at QPR, yeah, and he arrived, and he'd been released by Millwall, released by Arsenal, released by Reading, everyone, and he came.
Crazy.
And I was captain at the time, and I had quite a few young players. There's Ilias Chair, there's Brighter, Say Samuel as well, who's at Fener.
Amazing player.
Skill-wise, the way he moves. Yeah, like sometimes in training, you don't have to go 100% to beat certain people. But like, every time he'd have you on an ISO, it's like, all right, this is it then.
It's that time of year again. A time when people start to wonder if the grass might be greener. Whether they should switch sides and change allegiances. Take it from me. Big moves pay off. Sure, people will have opinions. But who cares what people think? Of course you can stay with them for another year, but is anything really going to change? Doesn't look like it to me. So if you're thinking about transferring this January, I say go for it. It's not like you're doing anything outrageous. You're just switching to something much, much better. It's that time of year again.
The thing is with Gyökeres is that I can see the mentality, and if it's anything like I was, he himself, he can't wait because he knows what he's going into. A guy that's initiated the move, agent took a cut in the pay, man's done everything to try and get there. That is enough for me to say I'm putting my marker on him. What you have to have faith in is your work and your work ethic and what you're capable of doing. I've watched him take chances. People talk about penalties, whatever they want to talk about.
He's a prolific
right?
striker.
I watch him take chances. And the goal doesn't change. Obviously, goalkeepers might be better. The goal doesn't change. The diameters of the goal, the angles you come in to shoot at don't change. Once you tone all that, once you like tighten all that up, but he can. We saw what happens when you get a striker who is a monster, who wants to score. We saw what happened with Haaland.
Yeah.
We saw what happened with him.
Could he make it in the Premier League?
Definitely. For me, he's a Premier League player. He's a player that suits the Premier League. He has every attributes to be a Premier League player. Strong, big, quick, above all, most importantly, goal scoring. You know, he can score goals. And when you look at it as well, I think his goal scoring ratio is better than any striker right now in Europe. So there is no, you can see, you know, the stats are there to back it up. And he's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, this guy.
Just a young gun with views. I was uptight, wanna let loose. I was dreaming of bigger things and wanna Lightning and the thunder, thunder, feel the thunder. 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 Lightning and the thunder, thunder, feel the thunder.
The moment I start to think about that, I feel goosebumps and excitement.
And it's not so easy to find players that can help us or can even strengthen the squad. And Subimendi was one of them, to be fair.